Good morning, everybody, and very welcome for taking the time to meet with us this morning or afternoon, depending where you are. My name is Mia, and on behalf of Legit Software and our esteemed partners at Turkey Al Rajdi Law Firm, it's a real pleasure to have everybody here today. Today, we're going to be cutting through the complexity of the Kingdom's PDPL. And this joint session is all about moving beyond theory and taking real and measurable steps towards operationalizing your compliance. We're going to focus on the core pillar that is fundamental and crucial for any successful privacy program, which is the records of processing activities, or ROPA for short. And this is not just about ticking boxes. This is about meeting fundamental requirements under the KSA PDPL, which mandates that you document and maintain detailed records of your processing activities. In today's sessions, we're going to learn how to build a compliant ROPA, why a well-structured ROPA is a true backbone of a risk-aware privacy program, and it is your key to demonstrating accountability and audit readiness as required by the PDPL. We're also going to be discussing common pitfalls that we see organizations make in this region when they manage ROPA and how we can avoid them. And we will also talk about how DPM, or Data Privacy Manager platform, helps to turn ROPA management from a manual burden into a scalable, auditable, and business-aligned process. So, if you're responsible for handling personal data in KSA, this session is designed to give you clarity, confidence, and control when it comes to PDPL. To make sure that we address all of your questions, feel free to submit them at any time using the platform. We're also going to have a short focus demo at the end of the presentation, as well as a dedicated Q&A with our two experts. And to guide us on this journey, I'm thrilled to be joined by two exceptional experts. First, Mr. Turkey Al Rajdi, who is the managing partner at Turkey Al Rajdi Law Firm. He's one of the most trusted voices in the legal privacy landscape in Saudi Arabia. He has advised top public and private sector companies, helping them navigate PDPL with precision and foresight. Welcome, Turkey.
Thank you.
Thank you. And second, it's Marian Bracic. He's the co-founder of Legit Software and creator of a flagship DPM platform. Marian is a pioneer in privacy automation. He has over 15 years of experience in data management and privacy, and he's a leading advocate for using technology to scale compliance in a very practical and effective ways. So, hello and welcome, both of you.
Thank you, Mia.
Thank you. It's great to have both of you here today. This is a very pressing and a very timely topic because we get so many questions about ROPA. So I'm gonna start actually with you, Turkey. KSA PDPL. Could you start by clarifying exactly what PDPL mandates when it comes to ROPA? And what are some of the practical and legal consequences for a company that fails to maintain a proper ROPA? So it's a two-edged question.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mia, for your introduction. It is a great honor to be here with you. And of course, warm regards for all the audience and especially the people from a privacy feed who trying to create impact and learn more about privacy. So to answer your questions, I like to simplify the ROPA by saying it's maintaining the ROPA. It's about having a clear written documenting record of the data you are processing inside your organization, and that should include what data you are collecting, the lawful you are relying on, and also where is the data this data is stored, especially if it's leaves the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So that also need to be clarified in ROPA. Also, you need to mention if you are disclose this personal data to any third party and for what purposes. So in simple term, this is the ROPA. But
Mhm.
if we will talk about the consequences you will get of for non having the proper ROPA, from practical perspective, it will bring for you a lot of issues related to lack of understanding of your personal data. For example, you are not aware about the lawful basis you are relying on, or you are not aware about the data you are collecting. So that will create issues in your privacy notice. For example, you are collecting biometric information and that is not reflected in your ROPA, so it will be not in your radar during your work on drafting your employee privacy notice or your privacy notice in general. You will not see the sensitive data you are collecting, and when you need data protection impact assessment or privacy impact assessment or legitimate interest impact assessment. So from risk perspective, always you will be exposed, always you will be having issues because you
Mhm.
are not aware about the data flow inside your organization. And of course, from legal perspective, the consequences will be dealing with body regulator fines and sanction. So which is how I can say have ROBA as a task is not difficult to fill in, but
Mhm.
the challenge is about increase the quality and make it useful and use it as a governance tools.
Thank you so much. And what kind of information needs to be included in Europa to meet the requirements of the Kingdom's PDPL? Could you guide us through that?
Absolutely. So when we talk about ROBA, if we look, I always advise the client and tell them, look, if we will deal with ROBA as a legal requirement, you will lose the value from the ROBA itself because we can go behind the compliance and we talk about the ROBA not as a paperwork, but as a X-ray for your data flow or your organization data flow. So it will show you everything. But if we will talk specifically from legal, as per the guideline published by SEDAE, and of course, thanks for them because they are very active regulator body, and there are a lot of guidelines published since the law become full enforced. So it's mentioned that you have to mention in your record of data activity about what data you are collecting, why you are collecting this data, what is the purpose of processing this data. Are you disclose this information to any third party? Who is this third party? And why you are giving him this data? Are the data stored inside Saudi Arabia? Where? Or it's stored outside Saudi Arabia, and also where, and what is the technical and management and organizational measurement you take to protect this data which is transferred outside the kingdom. And also, you need to mention the retention, data retention in the ROPA. So this is the mandatory. It needs to be mentioned in the ROPA, but as I mentioned, and it's just a baseline. You can always improve your ROPA and make it match the practical need you need.
Thank you so much, Turki. Moving on to get a little bit of a technical perspective. So, Marian, ROPA is the backbone of privacy program. So, from a technical and operational perspective, how does a well-structured ROPA actually help organizations manage risk beyond simply meeting a legal requirement?
Well, thank you, Mia, for the question, first of all. I would say that a well-structured records of processing activities is like the map of the data in the company. So it should allow you to identify where all personal data is stored, where it's processed, how it is shared, It also should provide you with information of dependencies between the systems, the IT systems, applications, document management systems, databases, and processes. And if you have this dependency between systems and processes, then this reduces the risk of errors and breaches. Also, well-structured ROPA allows you to detect high-risk processing activities before they cause any problems. That's very important to have this classification of high-risk activities. And it enables consistent reporting to regulators and stakeholders. That's also very, very important.
Oh, thank you. No, absolutely. You know, when we talk about all of these things, for a company that is just starting, building a ROPA can really feel overwhelming. You know, there's a legal perspective, there's technical perspective. So what are some of the most effective steps for organizations to begin this process? So let's start with that, and then I have a follow-up question on that.
Yeah, so starting with ROPA can be overwhelming in the beginning because there is a lot of work that needs to be done. I always think the best approach is, of course, to start with a high-level inventory of all the key processes. Don't worry about capturing every single detail in the ROPA immediately. First, identify where personal data enters the organization. So, who owns the personal data within the organization, and in which systems the personal data resides. So these are like the key things you can start with. Then you can break it down by departments or different types of data, focusing on critical or high-risk areas first. And you will see whatever you do in privacy, you should always focus first on the high-risk area. And I think that's a general advice. I mean, what we do in Legit is when we are creating the ROPA, we always first try to map everything from a high level, and then we dive into the details. But always starting with the high risk activities first.
Absolutely. So, but you know, when I speak to the clients, and especially when you're speaking to, let's say, enterprises of a certain size, you know, they have data which is scattered across multiple systems, multiple departments, and they would like to be compliant, but where did they actually start? And what are some of the typical, you know, departments where you would expect to find records of processing activities?
So I have seen companies with thousands of processing activities. So most departments within the company will be processing some type of personal data. It really depends on the industry, but you know, we always say the usual suspects for personal data processing will be sales, marketing, and HR.
Yeah.
And then really depending on the industry, it will be in B2C business, practically every department working with a customer will be processing customer data. If they have data scattered across many different systems, the most important thing is, of course, to have information about a list of all the systems, what is the purpose of the systems, what type of data do they store in the systems, and then we can start connecting the dots, basically understanding from compliance perspective, from business perspective, why is specific data being stored and processed in the system. So with ROPA, we start to talk about the purpose, right? This is not a technical view into the systems. This is a compliance view. So we always need to think about why are we processing specific.
Absolutely. And that brings me to, well, how does the organization actually ensure that its ROPA is always up to date and accurate, given that also processing activities can change frequently?
so they need to implement what we call a privacy program. And a privacy program can be a very simple manual program or can be fully automated, what we do with data privacy manager. Making sure that everything is compliant means working continuously on ROPA. So you need to be able to track all the changes, whether you are doing it manually or automatically. Of course, automatically is ultimately what you must do if you are bigger, more complex organization. But the key thing that you need to do is continuously work on the ROPA. How that's done, there is a lot of different tools. We use assessments, making sure that we always collect the fresh information. We use data discovery to connect to the systems, make sure that we know what are all the different types of data that we have. But I would say the key is continuously working on ROPA.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So our audience is asking, I think, Turkey, I'm going to start with you. How many types of data do we need to record? Yeah, let's talk about that for a second.
Any data you are collecting, you need to mention in your ROPA. It's a record of data activity. There are no limit. Any data that you are collecting, you are processing, you should have a record for it. So once we talk about, this is one of the questions I receive it a lot of time. It's about, for example, HR department, they are processing CVs data for the candidate. Okay, is that correct practice or not? Absolutely not, because you are not mentioning CVs. What kind of personal information you include the CV? It's inside the CVs, like email address, phone number. There are sometimes some CVs will include health status, like he need wheelchair or something like this. And what kind of, let's say, if he also put in his CV, any information you need to clarify it all in the ROPA. More, you need to mention like from where you get this information, from where you get the CVs, from your recruitment portal, or from join us in our website, or from email. So you need also to clarify this, where this data will going to be host. It will host outside the kingdom, for example, Microsoft Azure, or you will host it inside Saudi Arabia. So everything need to be mentioned in record of data activity. And for my understanding, there are no limit for the type of data. You will mention sensitive data you are processing, you will mention all the personal data you are dealing with in your organization.
And could you just clarify for us, Turkey, what do you mean when you talk about sensitive data? What is sensitive data exactly?
The sensitive data based on the PDPL, it's any data that will state about the personal intellectual idea or political ideas or health condition, or if he's from unknown parent. This all will consider as a sensitive data as per the PDPL.
I see. Is there anything different that we need to do when it comes to sensitive data?
I don't think there are a difference when you're dealing with sensitive data in ROPA. Okay.
Yeah,
But
we're talking
of
about
course,
yes.
yeah, of course, during the time when you are dealing with sensitive data, there are more strict rules regarding processing sensitive data. But the good things about ROPA, once you are processing sensitive data, it will be in your radar. So you will be aware when you need to do assessment, when you need to do some more exercise related to this data.
Okay, that's really helpful. Thank you. Thank you so much, Turkey. I'm gonna actually stick with you, and then I would also like to ask actually the same question for to both of you. So, Turkey, from your experience advising clients in the kingdom, what is the single biggest pitfall or common mistakes that you see organizations make when they try to manage ROPA?
That's good questions, really. I think the biggest mistake I see it in the market, and I always advise my client to avoid, is dealing with ROPA like a legal requirement only and paperwork only, because it's very easy to fill in ROPA form, but the most difficult part is actually making the ROPA as a living document and updated and dealing with it uh, as I mentioned in the beginning, X-ray for your data flows in your organization. So one of the mistake also will be no ownership for the ROPA. Okay, we always talk about business ownership for the data, but the ROPA ownership, it's no one usually talk about it. Like there should be central coordinator for the ROPA in order to make the things stable and avoid any mistake from multi-hand deal with the ROPA or making decision about it. So ownership for the ROPA is important as much the ownership for the data from business stockholders or so on. And another mistake I see it a lot in the market is about privacy team only deal with ROPA. This is also one of the things will create a lot of issues because privacy team, they are the prime coordinator for filling the ROPA and maintain and sustain the ROPA. But the business stakeholders or the people who own the data, they are more familiar about the data they are processing. They know the purposes, they can explain, and the privacy team always will support them to formulate the things in the right way. For example, there are some like, as I mentioned, making the ROPA managed by privacy team, but always let the business or the data owners always interact with you and access to the ROPA with you and support you on.
Oh, thank you. That's very helpful. And Marian, I would also like to get your view because Legit has worked with more than 200 clients in about 44 different countries. So can you add maybe some international perspective as well, given that a lot of businesses are now cross-border?
Sure. I mean, we have worked with, for example, global companies, and global companies, from my experience, are of course most complex because what you have with them, you have entities across hundreds of different countries, crossing many different regulations. And I would say that from a perspective of keeping up, managing the ROPA, pretty much all the regulations are very similar. What you need to do is, of course, we do it through the software because for a global company, there isn't any other way. But what you need to do is you need to have a very precise organization of the records and use the same terminology across all the different territories and try to help with creating templates. Like from ROPA perspective, you should always have a master record, then you can then localize to apply different specifics for each country.
Thank you. And maybe you can also, slightly different question that we have from the audience. What are some of the key components of ROPA?
The key components of ROPA, every record, ROPA is a set of records, each record explaining in details how the data is being processed. The key components of ROPA are the attributes that explain how is the processing being done, who is doing the processing, why is the processing being done, what is the purpose, what is the lawful basis. Is data being shared with anyone else? If yes, how is the data being shared and what data? Where is the data being stored? What is the type of data? What is the type of individuals that are being processed. Are they customers or employees and so on? I would say these are the key components, but then the ROPA can be expanded. There are slight nuances depending on the regulation, but it can be expanded to host more business-related information.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you so much for clarifying that. Turkey,
Yes.
both ROPA and DPIA are key component, are like key PDPL requirements. Could you maybe explain what is the relationship between these two documents?
Absolutely. As I mentioned, when we talk, I really, maybe not a lot of people like me, but I really love the ROPA. It's give me a clear image about what we are doing with data. So, data protection impact assessment, it's required in certain position. So you will identify when you need to apply a data protection impact assessments once you are uh, have a proper ROPA. So you are processing some, for example, look, let's be practical. For you enter to the ROPA as a privacy manager and see that marketing team add that they are processing some client information for marketing purposes by using legitimate interest as a lawful basis. So that for you as a privacy officer, it will be a red flag. What is going on? And it's need to be done by using the consent as PDPL. But in the practical world, legitimate interest sometimes will be used for marketing, but not to deliver marketing but to collect consent, right? So in order to do something like this, you need to go through privacy impact assessment and do legitimate impact assessment as well. So, which is legitimate impact assessment, you will see what kind of data you are using in order to collect this consent. Is the data subject expect from you to use his data to reach to him to collect the consent and so on? There are a lot of exercise inside that legitimate interest assessment in order to make the decision and document that exercise to be ready once you need. And as I mentioned, with this practical example, you can see that because you have a proper ROPA, updated ROPA, living document, you identify where you need to apply your DBAs or legitimate impact assessment or a transfer risk assessment or transfer impact assessment. So ROPA always help for identify where you need to apply assessment and when.
Oh, okay. So just to kind of follow up here a little bit, what are some of the common triggers to conduct the transfer impact assessment and legitimate impact assessment in the from the local and international perspective?
Okay. For how I can let me I'm trying to simplify it as much as I can, but assessment it's a risk maintenance tools, right? So it's always about asking yourself questions and maintain and having right measurement about the risk you're going to take by taking this action while you're processing the data, right? So the component you will find it inside any assessment. You will find that you are asking questions, you clarify what kind of data you are going to use, you identify the impact of using this data, what kind of impact will be, you identify if it's expected from the data subject or something unexpected. For example, I'm registered for getting medical in some healthcare provider, and you use my information for marketing purpose, even for reaching to me to collect my consent, it's something inconvenience for me. I don't want you to do that, right? So it's always about maintain and manage risk, and it is the main purpose of assessments. And also, if we talk about PDPL overall, it's always about manage and maintain and be responsible about the data and the risk of processing this data.
I see. Thank you. Thank you. That's really helpful, Turkey. So, Marian, what our audience also wants to know is how technology can help. And how does a tool like Data Privacy Manager solve ROPA management to make it scalable and auditable process and not just this huge manual burden?
Yeah, I understand. So when you think about technology and automation, the most important thing is that we are shifting from static uh, business process to something that is a living thing. What this means is that, first of all, DPM and technology in general centralizes ROPA in a single software platform, replacing all the spreadsheets, emails, Excel tables, and so on. And we have a built-in workflow. That means that Turkey already mentioned that it is very important to move from a centralized governance model where only the DPO does something to a decentralized model where everybody who is processing personal data has their small specific tasks. What technology does is basically operationalizes this, and it sends different tasks to different people at the right time, making sure that they are notified in time and that it is very clear what they need to do. This helps a lot with what you previously asked me, and that is how do you keep records of processing activities up to date? So this is very important. Also, what the technology does, it provides the right format, the right structure. It provides additional tools which can help you look into the systems and find what is really the personal data that you have. It can help you look into the regulation and see what are the, for example, applicable data retention rules. So it tracks dependencies, it tracks retention rules, it tracks vendors, it connects with the privacy risk assessment, such as the data protection impact assessment and the third-party risk assessment. It creates reports, it makes everything audit ready, it has a history of every change. In short, it basically turns everything from a manual, error-prone process into a scalable, actionable process.
Excellent. Thank you so much. And when you have data that is being shared within the organization between two different departments, let's say HR and marketing department, does this need to be recorded by both departments then? Maybe Turkey is the best person.
Okay, so for me, I think is yes. The answer will be yes, because whoever touched the data need to be mentioned in the ROPA and it belong to ROPA. For example, IT department processing employees' information for sending phishing awareness emails, let's say. So that also need to, as an activity, mention in the ROPA. HR processing disclose some information or share some information with the bank for payroll purposes. Okay, that also need to be mentioned in the ROPA. Let's say legal department using some consumer personal data while they are drafting contract or while they are doing things related to the compliance, also that need to be mentioned in the ROPA. We're talking here about the best practice. We're talking about the things that once you do will give you a clear image, full picture about what is the data flow inside your organization, and will keep this document alive and will provide you a best governance tool. So this is this. If I will give a very short answer as a takeaway, I will say whoever touched the data is belong to ROPA.
Okay, I guess that sums it up really easily and,
Yes,
and
yes.
nicely. Um, this is a question actually for both of you. PDPL also speaks to accountability. And how does the combination of legal structure and technology platform help a company demonstrate that it's audit ready and accountable?
Turkey, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
As you wish for me.
Why don't you start?
Okay, so if when we talk about accountability, it's one of the key principles, and the combination of the legal structure and technology works in a way that the legal structure defines roles, responsibilities, and processes. So who owns which data, who is responsible for updates, and technology enforces and documents these processes automatically, of course. And this is how we work with DPM. So every change, every review, every risk assessments are logged with timestamps, with history. So from my perspective, technology is here to enforce, automate meetings, automated, faster, more reliant auditing.
Okay, thank you. Turkey, is there anything you would like to add here?
Absolutely. If we accountability, one of the major principle in the PDPL. So when we talk about ROPA, how it's improved the accountability, it's come through that you will understand who is dealing with data, who touched the data, and you identify the accountable department, accountable stakeholders for this certain personal data. So by identifying the accountable, you can start marketing, let's say, the culture of data protection and start improve the accountability inside your organization and build the trust with your consumer and partner.
Thank you for that. And let's. This is actually not a question about ROPA, but we have so many questions from the audience because it's such a pertinent topic. But Turkey, if you could just comment a little bit on DSR and data retention policies.
DSR and data retention.
Data subject right. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. For data, I can't see the questions about data subject right. Maybe I can, because I want to answer him. Yes, follow this question. Okay. For
Yeah.
data subject right, the entire BDPL built to protect the individuals, to protect the data subject, and allow them to exercise their right. And there are many rights mentioned in the PDPL, like right to access, right to be informed, right to be to withdraw his consent and also edit his information and so on. So the data access, data subject right, one of the major things required from the controller to provide to the individuals or data subject. And he should allow them, for example, for consent. One of the right the data subject have is to withdraw his consent with same level, same way that he give the consent from the or easier way. That one of the things required. Then it's come with the practical action required from the control to provide this tools consent management or anything else which will improve the way that the data subject can withdraw their consent and exercise their right. Same for access. You should always have a channel for communication that they can exercise their right, like privacy policy and more. For data retention policies, for example, you collecting employee information, you collecting consumer information, you collecting some you have a lot of information. It's based in your business. Like if you are a healthcare provider, if you are a company work B2B, and it's something need to be studied. But if we will give it like simple definition for how long time you will keep the data. If you have, let's say, 10 different type of personal data you are processing, each one of them, for how long time you will keep them. This is the retention policy. It's something that we can, okay, me and Mia, we are working, let's say, in the same company, and Mia asked me, Turkey, for how long we need to keep our consumer data, who came from e-commerce platform. Okay, e-commerce consumers, let's back to our privacy or data retention policy. We will know this type of data for how long we should keep. This is the most important output from the data retention policy. I hope that is clear.
Another question for you, Marian, and then we're going to have a short demo. How important is it to create a PIA, and do we have to do that? And can you actually do it through DPM?
Yes, you can do it through DPM, and I would say it depends on the complexity of the privacy operations in the company. I would say for big global companies, it is a must-have, and not just the PIA. There are many different types of assessments that you can introduce into the business process. Like you can even have something like a pre-assessment. Even before creating a processing activity, you can collect basic information to understand, for the DPO to understand whether a processing activity should be created or not. Then when you have a processing activity, you can do a PIA, based privacy impact assessment. You can do pre-assessment for a DPI, understanding whether a DPI needs to be done or not. So having ongoing privacy assessments is a good practice in the company. However, you need to understand if you are doing all of this, working on the ROPA, keeping track. Each assessment can be a source of risks. So I have seen organizations with 10,000 plus risks, and these risks need to be also managed continuously. So it is really a lot of operational work. You also need to be smart and think big, start small, like we like to say. So expand the privacy program as you see fit, always focusing on the high risks first.
Excellent. I think that's a really good key piece of advice. So just in the interest of time, shall we do a quick demo?
So for everybody still with us, I want to show you in Data Privacy Manager for a few minutes how the ROPA what the ROPA actually looks like. I think this is very important. So first of all, what you can see here is in the ROPA command center is the basic information, aggregated information, a dashboard about what is how your ROPA currently looks like. What are the key information here is what is the lawful basis landscape, what is how the organizational role radar looks like. The global data locality provides you with information where you are collecting and sending information from and to. And the DPIA is all about whether you still have some ongoing DPIAs, whether you need to do some, you still haven't done them. Also, the third party and systems information is very interesting because you always want to know who are the vendors, who are the third parties with whom you share most personal information and in which systems you have the most data. And the ROPA itself is always managed in a form of a grid. Every record represents one processing activity within the company. And every record, of course, has much more details which are recorded in the record itself, and that is the name of the processing activity, the description of the processing activity, which organizational unit is in charge of processing the data. So in this case, we are talking about using of data for internal purposes. In this case, group compliance is the main organizational unit. And you can see the business owner, the role of the company. What is the purpose? So why are we doing this? What is the local basis? In this case, this is company's legal obligation. If data is being shared with someone outside the company, who are these third parties? These are two vendors in this case, and this vendor is in Mexico, and Cheers Cafe, the other vendor, is in China. And you can see that there is also data processing agreement. This is the contract in which the vendors' obligations are described, how they should protect the data, how we are sharing the data. So then we have information about where does data actually reside within the company, which systems. You can see there are 3 systems here. Just a moment ago, Turkey was talking about data retention. So retention, we help our customers with retention in a way that they can search in a database. So understanding retention obligations can be difficult. This is why it is important that we can help. And what you can see here is a global database of retention obligations. And let's select Saudi Arabia, a category being human resources, and subcategories payroll and wages. You can see that there are multiple obligations. Most of them are for 3 months. If we go into the details, we can see what the company needs to store, for how long, and they also get the link to legal records. Then the data domains, what type of data is being processed, what are the categories of individuals whose data is being processed, which security measures have been implemented. If there are privacy assessments being done, we can see the dependency with the privacy assessments here. And then we have the governance piece in terms of who is responsible for making sure that this record is always up to date, who can see this information, and so on. This is the grid. This is the key piece, but of course there are many more pieces to this puzzle. One of the things is that there are risks. So how do we basically assign risks to processing activities? We do this typically through doing privacy risk assessments. In the interest of time, I will just show one more thing. And this is when the company is doing data protection impact assessments. What they are doing is they are basically sending out assessment to different people in the company. The assessment templates used are pretty much standard, which come with the tool itself, but they are also configurable. So every company can, in theory, have a little bit different privacy assessments tweaked to their specific purposes. The most important thing in the end is that in the same place, you are able to record both the activity and the assessment. You have collaboration, you have automation, you have governance in post. So, and in the end, of course, there are reports, there are dashboards, and it's really nice when you can visualize the complete company and the whole landscape and how you are actually processing data. And also, it is very important to be notified when there are any new risks created. So by using the software, it makes you much more efficient and faster. It reduces risks of non-compliance, and it also decentralizes the job and helps the DPO be the controlling, monitoring role, and basically delegate simple tasks to the right people within the company.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Marian. Some of the questions that we had just gotten from the audience, just very quickly. Does the solution support things like consent management and DSR and assessment automation? Is this something that DPM supports?
Of course, all of this, and we have built DPM to be a modular solution. That means that consent can be a thing for itself. Like consent management is a really complex solution at the end when you look at it. And you don't have to have ROPA to use consent management, or you don't need to have consent management to use ROPA. So these are different modules within the platform, and we cover the consent, we cover data subject request, we cover assessments, all of it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much for that. Turkey, I think that you're probably the best person for this question from our audience. So the audience is asking if a data processing agreement or SCC, standard contractual clauses, are required when a company's own employee data as the data controller is given to the cloud service provider in another country, even if the main processing activity does not involve that data.
Okay. First of all, my answer, I love to give disclaimer. Me, I will give my disclaimer or not, or I should.
I will give you a disclaimer. This is not a legal advice.
Amazing. So we are just having discussion, but let's first break down your questions. First, DBAs and standard contractual clause. DBA is required once you are giving your data to data processor. Okay. Here in your scenario, you say that we are giving our employees data to the cloud service provider. Okay. Now, cloud service provider, what he will do with personal data, he will host it, right? So where he will host it? Outside the kingdom. So now he processes the data in your behalf. Okay. So this is a third party. Now we can consider him as third party. Look, we are trying now to break down the things. Your cloud service provider, he's a vendor, then he's a third party. And in order to have a safe relationship with him, you need to assign a DBA with him, data processing addendum. It will include what kind of data you give to him, what the responsibilities he have, your right to audit, and so on, as per also the best practice, let's say. And then you will, if he's transfer the data outside the kingdom, then you should include the DBA with SCC, okay? But here in your question, you say, especially when no data subject information is being processed in the activity. No, there are personal data having processed from your cloud provider by storing this data in his services outside the kingdom. So because of there are personal data, because there are a data processor who is your cloud provider, because there are data transfer outside the kingdom, because he will store your data outside the kingdom, you should do a DBA, data processing addendum with him, include the SCC, standard contractual clause, and in order to be safe and having very clear relation with your data processing, and also to be protected from any issues with your body regulator as well. I hope this answers the question.
Thank you. I love how you break down such a complex legal things into very simple terms so that it's really easy to understand and follow. This is a true gift, Turkey. So thank you. Thank you so much for that. We have about 2 minutes left for questions. I hope that we can answer at least one or two more. So the question that audience is asking is if when we do a data protection impact assessment or DPIA, can that lead to recommendations for a specific legal or technical measure?
Okay, shall I answer this?
Yeah, sure.
Of course, yes. The main purposes from data protection impact assessment or privacy impact assessment or whatever, it's to know what we should do, or we should do it or not, right? So once you start doing a data protection impact assessment, you as an output, you will decide, Shall we move on? Shall we take action, or shall we we should not proceed with this data processing plan? Or we will proceed, but we will have to assign a DBA because we will give it to the third party who will process it to us. So, or we will rely on legitimate interest. So you need to do legitimate interest impact assessment. So it's data or any assessment under PDPL. The main purpose is to give you a clear idea about what you are going to do and what is the impact. And after this exercise, you will have a clear image about are you going to do it or not, and if you do it, what measures you do with to ensure that you are minimizing the risk to the best level, let's say.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And that unfortunately brings us to the end of our allotted. I really want to thank the audience for their phenomenal questions. I know there were also quite a few questions about data subject rights and retention policies. We will do another webinar on that topic, so please stay tuned and keep following us on LinkedIn or reach out to us directly, so we can help you with all of these challenges. And I also really want to thank our two fantastic panelists, Marian and Turki. Thank you so much for your expertise and your time and your input. I hope this was enjoyable for everybody, and feel free to follow us and contact us at any point in time. Thank you, and have a great day.